Is it morally wrong to eat meat prepared by a family member while visiting them as a guest?
It's not really about morals and ethics. I was called to veganism because I was just instructed that I don't need to eat meat anymore. I needed a pure energy. I needed a more refined energy. But it's not for me to project onto other people whether they should eat meat or not. I'm aware that when I drink a glass of water, I'm killing millions of microorganisms. When I breathe in the free air, I'm killing millions of microorganisms. My body, my lymphocytes, my killer T cells are killing invading viruses all the time just to keep me alive. I'm aware that I can't be in this body without killing something sentient. So because I'm aware of that, and I know that's how I have to kill something to stay alive, I do the minimal damage I can. To me, that means I don't eat anything to do with animals. That's been my instruction. That might not be your instruction, and I'm not saying it should be. I'm saying that's my instruction was you don't need to eat meat anymore. You don't need to kill animals. You don't need to have dairy. So that gives me a higher level of fuel. So it's saying to me, we need to get you away from fossil fuel and more towards like a rocket fuel so we can break through the levels of perception. I can't do that on the old-fashioned fuel. So what is dangerous is that if we are professing to be vegan or vegetarian but we're not doing it, then we become hypocritical in our own mind, and that can create lots of doubt in you and in other people. So I'd say if you are professing to be a vegan or a vegetarian, then be one. Don't make excuses. But it isn't my job to proselytize that and to try and to judge anybody else if they're eating meat or if they're having dairy. It's nothing to do with me. I take my own instruction and I live my life according to that instruction. But when I first had this message not to eat meat, it said to me, do not be judging other people if they're eating meat, because you was doing it 5 minutes ago. Everybody has to find it at their own pace and in their own time. So I would say, if you don't want to eat meat, then be courageous enough to turn up at your family's house and just say, I don't eat meat. Thank you, but it's not for me. You're not judging them. If you find yourself judging them, if you find yourself lecturing them, then you're falling into ego, you're falling into judgment, and that doesn't help. Judging other people is just as bad as eating meat, because you're falling into that same frequency again. So I'd say if it's your calling not to eat meat, then don't eat meat, and it doesn't matter where you are, you just don't eat it. It just isn't part of your life.
How do we know what spiritual path to take in life when there is so many different religions and holy books?
There's only one guru, one inner guru. You won't find it in the Bible, you won't find it in the Quran, you won't find it in the world, you won't find it in riches, you won't find it in acclaim, you won't find it in nature, only as they represent it in you. So Christ is in you, the Christ energy, that extra energy is in you. So what I do is, first of all, you've got to locate the inner tutor. There's a lovely line in the Old Testament that says your soul will become your teacher. So your soul or your inner tutor will guide you towards what you need to read and where you need to go. That's an intuition. And if you follow the intuition, you'll be led on the right path. So you won't, you'll be following like a divine sat-nav. You won't be following your own instinct. You'll be following your own intuition. And then you'll be led to different religions and different faiths to find what you need to find within those faiths. Not to fall into the dogma of it, but just to find what you need to find within those faiths. So I would say we need to find the inner tutor, the inner light, and let that grow in us. And if you don't know where that is and what it is, the first thing you can do, and they call this apophatic theology, is remove all of the things in you that you recognize as not God, as in judgment, procrastination, anger, projection, envy, greed, all of the vices. Look at the parts of you that are not God and just gradually starve them out. This is what they call spiritual fasting. It's one of the levels of spiritual fasting. Fast yourself of the negative emotions, especially if they're coming out in a very angry and vitriolic way. Once you reduce the negative stuff, the positive stuff will shine through. Once you find the soul, you can go in and communicate with the soul, and you can ask the soul for guidance. The cleaner you get, the more light you've got in you, the clearer that will become. And you can find that mostly through silence. Listen every day. Go into silence and listen. You're not going to find it in your thinking. You're not going to find it in an inner debate. You're going to find it in silence. So once you've got the inner tutor will lead you to whatever you need to go to in order to get correct instruction.
If there was one source or God speaking through these prophets, why do the books say different things that are contradictory about God?
Well, at the lowest level, you'll find contradiction. At the highest level, you'll find unity. When you look at ordinary people, you'll see contradiction in everybody, and you won't find an answer within that thinking world. But there is an answer in a unification. So we unify our own bodies, our thinking, our saying, our physical body, our breath body, our mind and intellect body, our causal body, our thinking, saying and doing. When we can unify ourselves, we can connect to this higher force, and this higher force will instruct us. And there'll be no contradiction there, because you're going to a place of unification. There's only contradiction where there's no unification. So if you go into the binary Bible, the revealed Bible, you're going to find contradictions everywhere. Binary means it's yes or no, right or wrong, good or bad. If you go into the quantum Bible, the hidden Bible, it's more of a scatter system, like in Sufism, where you might read a book and pick up 20 notes that are all disparate, that don't mean anything. But when you piece them together, they make a picture that forms a seed of an idea, a concept nucleus that is just for you, just for you. It's got your name on it, and then you develop that seed. So if you're finding contradiction, it's probably because you haven't gone deeply enough yet. So you start to read the books that you don't necessarily understand. You don't read the Torah at the level of the Torah. You read the Torah at the level of intuition. You don't read the Zohar at the level of the Zohar. You read it at the level of intuition. So when I read the Zohar, I picked up 70 pages of notes that was reduced down to one single word. That was there just for me. And that word became a seed that I've been developing ever since. So when you go into the hidden Bibles, there will be a message there just for you. But you won't get to the hidden Bibles until you first unify yourself. You've got to get past the seeming contradiction of the revealed Bibles in order to get to the hidden Bibles. When you're happy and comfortable with contradiction, the message will probably start to seep through. So don't look at what doesn't speak to you, look at what does speak to you.
Do you still mentor people one-on-one? And if so, how can I find out more about it?
I don't mentor people one-to-one. I've got a couple of people that I've been looking after for quite a few years. I'm not quite sure if I'm mentoring them or if they're mentoring me. So it's not something I do at the moment, but thank you for the inquiry, but it's not something I'm doing now. So everything I'm doing at the moment is through Gabriela and Paul on this platform.
How many times a day do you meditate, and for how long?
My first meditation, I would say, as a general rule, I'd say I'm talking to God all day. So I'm in constant prayer. So I get up in the morning, I do some Qigong, I meditate for an hour, I have some breakfast, then I'll write for several hours, and that's meditation. Then I will walk, and that's walking meditation. Then I'll have some lunch, and then I'll meditate for half an hour. And then I'll write again, which is another period of intuitive meditation. And then I'll do some yoga, and then I'll meditate for about half an hour before tea. But I'm talking to God all the time. I'm in constant communication. So, but I don't recommend that people just do that. That's something I've built up over years and years and years. But if you looked at something like transcendental meditation, they advise you to start with 20 minutes twice a day. And when you can do that consistently, then you can start going into the more advanced forms. But eventually everything becomes a meditation. What I'm doing now is a meditation. Every single thing becomes a communication with the divine.
How do we know when we should increase our meditation time or be performing action in the world?
Well, that's back to this. This is a good question, but it's down to intuition. Because we are meditation's a big part of what we do. but there's also the call for action and the call for work. Meditation isn't going to help us if we're not actually working on the stuff. Like if you do meditation and it brings up something you need to work on, that needs to be worked on. But everybody's a bit different. Some people are called to sit in a cave and meditate at a concentrated level, like the Desert Fathers, and they found arcane of that. They've passed on through books and through lectures. Other people are called to be householders who live in the world, and they work at that. They call it the razor's edge, where they work their spirituality within the world. So it's recognizing where you're called. So I'm semi-reclusive. You know, I spend most of my day working and meditating on the things I'm advised to meditate and work on. But, you know, I know other people that are doing full-time jobs and they're putting their meditation in between. So I'd say it depends on what you're personally called to do. If you're called to meditate all the time, then you meditate all the time. If you're called to meditate and work, then, you know, you've got to figure that out from your own intuition. Some people do use meditation to bypass the world, but the world will soon prompt you and tell you if that's true. You'll soon get the poke of spirit. You know, you'll get a divine shock. If you're not doing the work you need to do, you know, if we're going to bring this light in, then we need to project it out somewhere. So you'll soon be shown by your own spirit if you're not doing the work. So I'd say listen to intuition. Listen to what intuition's calling. It's not something I can tell you. Something you've got to figure out for yourself. And all you need to do to figure out is go into your prayer or meditation and say, where do you want me to serve? I only want to serve you. And then go into the stillness and wait for the answer. And then when you're given the work, do the work.
There's lots of debate in religion about gay marriage. Both sides believe they are right. How do we know what the correct moral way is for such a controversial issue?
You're only going to know by going in. You know, people will say, Christ is here, Christ is over there. You know, you can find him in this religion, you can find him in that book. He's not in any of those places, he's in you. So it's about going within. The answer to these questions isn't going to be debated. This is about going into you. This is about going within and finding your own singularity, finding your own Christ energy or your own geometric point or your own soul, whatever you want to call it. So the answers to those questions can waste a lot of energy. Are you living kindly? Are you living with love? Doesn't matter. To me, all the other stuff doesn't matter. If you're living kindly and you're living with love, everything else will sort itself out. And what we need to do to find that is we need to do a forensic biopsy on our own life. We need to find the parts of us that are cancerous and find the parts of us that are healthy. And we need to remove the cancerous parts and encourage the healthy parts. And that can be as little as, you know, if you're still gossiping about your friends outside Costa, if you're still throwing your slipper at the telly, if you're still judging people who are making mistakes, then you're at a very low level. You don't need to concern yourself about bigger questions because you still haven't got your own unification. So I would say get rid of all of the negatives in your life. Remove them. The lion perishes, as they say, for want of prey. So remove all of the judgments from your life. Remove all of the unkindnesses from your life. When you do that, you'll find your own centre. When you're in your own centre, you will live according to that centre, and that will advise you on what is right and wrong. I wouldn't get caught up in the debate of what's out there, because Christ isn't out there. He's within you. Everything you see out there is just a reflection of what's in you. That's the great thing. Just work on you. Get yourself centered. And then everything that comes out of you will come from a place of love.